inviting people into a space where we're going to hold this story.
Love your art. Did you know a lot of the riders were actually women wearing beards?
Yes.
Which gives me such like Monty Python vibes. It's amazing.
What if Muppets did the Easter story?
If that's all we're looking for, that's what we're going to find. Yeah.
I'm looking for pie. Welcome to the local cabaret of live streams and podcasts, where a good chorus line gathers together and tries and sings the heartiest to the bestest, and one of us may be a bit pitchy, one of us might be wearing something a bit suspect, but we are giving our hearts and hoping to give a little bit of extra of heart and entertainment into the world. This is another episode of Faith in Geekery, and my name is Mark, and this is
Tom. It's good to be here and be here on another Tuesday evening as we get together for some faith and some geekery, especially some geekery would be good. So talking of which, let's ask the question we always ask at the beginning of these episodes. What geeky things have you been up to since we last gathered? So if you're on the chat, if you're on the comments, do let us know. But Mark, what geeky things have you been up to since we were last together?
It's a little bit strange, really, because I've actually been quite busy, so I've not actually had a lot of time. But in my downtime, I guess I've been watching some old classics, as to say, old to me. I've rewatched Pirates of the Caribbean. I've kind of been watching some old Doctor Who, whilst kind of letting my hair down. I've been playing a bit more of Goat Simulator, which is like a silly, daft open world, lots of small achievements to do, things to kind of achieve. So yeah, it's quite fun. Steve waves and says hello, or
hello.
Waves at least. I assume that is a hello gesture. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. How about you, Tom?
So I have been completing. It was mentioned for those who were here last week. I've been building the Lego Notre Dame. I have now completed it. We have reached the modern era. No, I haven't burnt it down and built it again, but I have been doing that. So I've completed that. So that is now in one of the display cabinets upstairs. And I've also managed to get a game of Warhammer 40,000 in on Saturday as part of the local crusade that seemed ingratiating me into the local gaming community in my new location. So that was good. I managed to get a win. I even managed to get a win in, which was, it's not really the point of crusade games. They're just there to tell a story, but it is nice on occasion to get a win in. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
I hadn't even realised that that's what a crusade is compared to other things. So David says good evening too, and thank you for just mentioning about the stuff that you've been up to, because I've just remembered to upload the PowerPoint that we'll come to later, which is all you. Which is all you this week. Steve has put Starfleet Academy is taking up my geekiness at the moment.
Yes.
So that's the Amazon Prime series, is it? And I think it's gone back to kind of quite a niche era, I do believe. But Steve and others, please do correct me. But I think, yeah, that looks quite interesting.
Talking about
Paramount
Prime.
Plus. There you go, Paramount
yes.
Plus.
Which you can get through Amazon Prime by paying an additional subscription on top of your Amazon Prime, which always feels to me a bit.
other streaming platforms are
Yes.
available,
Oh,
but
indeed.
that is most probably
Indeed.
where I saw it, but I've not tuned into it
Yeah,
myself.
no, absolutely. It always confuses me if I'm on Amazon Prime and they've got all these things. You can watch this, and you go to them. It's like, if you get a subscription for Apple TV or Paramount Plus or whatever it is, it's like, well, okay, that's not quite what I got this for, but never mind. But which reminds me, on Amazon Prime, I've I'd still have to start watching the new series of Fallout that we were discussing last week. So I haven't got around to doing that. So,
Oh yeah, I have continued to watch that as well. Steve,
good,
it's
good.
actually way into the future after Starfleet, all but collapsed after the burn. Oh, that might be a potential spoiler. I do not know, but that's cool.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think that's about it really in regards to geekiness. Life has just been a bit busy this week,
Right.
so but I won't go into that.
No.
But folks, do please continue to leave a comment of geekiness or otherwise.
Yep. I'm trying to think. Have I done it? If you've not done much, I'm trying to think. Have I done anything else? Done the 40K? No. Well, we'll come to something else that I did last week, which kind of counts as a bit geeky, but we'll come to that later, I think. So that's fine for now.
Steve has also put. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Steve has put. The burn was from a story from Discovery, and David has put. I've been painting Caradon Overlords and playing a bit of Magic the Gathering. Very nice.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Caradon Overlords are basically flying dwarves in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is their fantasy range. Not their old fantasy range, which is old world now, but their newer Age of Sigmar range. Yeah, flying dwarves. They fly around on metal hot air balloons. They've got one of the best aesthetics in the whole of Age of Sigmar, in my view. They are very cool. So, I'm sure that's been enjoyable to paint.
That's very cool. I've forgotten, I have actually been doing something geeky. I've been listening to podcasts, but in particular, I've been listening to kind of D&D style podcasts, the actual play stuff. So I've been listening to, of course, our own podcast, which is Epoch, as well as Dice Company's Small Embers podcast, which just before Christmas, I actually won a competition, which was rather exciting. And I can talk about that another time. But then I've also been listening to the main players from that podcast have also been kind of guesting on Dungeon Measure, which is a Star Wars podcast normally, but they've been doing like a little mini series. So that's been quite fun to listen to. And even in the usual Dice Company campaign, they've actually been taking a break over Christmas, and they've done like a 5-parter, which is Eat the Reich. I've got to say that carefully. Eat the Reich, which is like a Second World War take with vampires being used as from the Allies to defeat Hitler and all that kind of malarkey. I hope that's not a spoiler either. But yeah, it's a little bit strange, but it's quite funny. It's the usual people that I'm used to listening to, so that's been quite entertaining, really.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
All right, sounds good.
So with that kind of talked about, shall we move on to our weekly feature of the quiz?
Let's do it. Let's do the quiz.
So, folks, you've got a couple of seconds to grab a piece of paper and a pen, or paper or otherwise.
I got questions. The quiz.
So, here is the quiz for January the 27th. That is today. And if you're ready with whatever device or paper, but no Googling or kosherring or other search engines are available. So, question number 1.
Go for it.
A number of computer games are celebrating world anniversaries this year. Can you put them in the right order from 1 to 4? 1 being the oldest, 4 being the newest.
Okay.
And so it's it's the world release, so it's not just kind of like when they were released in the UK, it's across the whole of the world.
Yeah.
And so the list of them are Animal Crossing, The Legend of Zelda, Gears of War, and Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to say the question again. A number of computer games are celebrating world anniversaries this year. Can you put them in the right order? 1 being the oldest to 4 being the newest. And the selection is Animal Crossing, The Legend of Zelda, Gears of War, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Shall I move on?
Yes, go on.
Question number 2. According to collinsdictionary.com, what does a vexillologist collect? And so I'll say that again. Oh, Steve's just put, I used to love Gears of War. Had forgotten all about it. So it says, question number 2, it says, according to collinsdictionary.com, what does a vexillologist collect? I'll spell that as in Vexillologist. Vexillologist. Now, Tim has, over the kind of last few months, done kind of a various, guess the superhero amongst superhero things.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to do one which is kind of my style, which I've been doing this sort of question for about 23 years, I worked out. So I'm going to explain this with an example.
Okay.
But this is movie connections. And so I'm going to say this. I'm going to mention 3 films, and each film, according to IMDb, has a top cast of like about 4.
Yeah.
Who all share another film in common as being top casting. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes.
So here's an example for you. So I would say Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Ghostbusters. And then I will ask you to get the answer. And the answer is Jungle Book, which is the live action version. Because Ben Kingsley was in Shang-Chi. Idris Elba was in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Bill Murray was in Ghostbusters. Does that make sense?
It does.
So question number 3, and I might be able to give you a clue for one of these if you need it. But question number 3 is this movie connections. I'm going to name 3 films, and you've got to guess the film that has in common. So the first film is The Queen's Gambit. The second film is a Minecraft movie. And the third film is Jurassic World. So I'm going to say that again. The first film is The Queen's Gambit. The second film is a Minecraft movie. And the third film is Jurassic World. So my question is, have you seen all of those films?
No, there's no way on earth that I would have seen a Minecraft movie. So,
well, do you want me to give you the star from that one, as I'm being generous? So the star from that one is Jack Black.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I'm going to get it, but okay. I like the question. I'm not sure I'm going to get the answer, but
fair enough. Question number 4. What does Spaceman by Babylon Zoo, Tears on My Pillow by Kylie Minogue, and Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick by Ian Drury and the Blockheads all have in common? I'm going to have to say that again. So these are all songs, by the way. What does Spaceman by Babylon Zoo, Tears on My Pillow by Kylie Minogue, and Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick by Ian Drury and the Blockheads all have in common?
Okay.
Finally, question 5. What is not a type of artistic paint? And apologies for pronunciation. A, encaustic. B, linseed. C, gouache. Or D, tempera. So what is not a type of artistic paint? A, encaustic. B, linseed. C, gouache. Or D, tempera.
Okay.
Are we ready for answers?
Well, as ready as I'm ever going to be.
Fair enough. Okay, so question number 1, which was the number of computer games celebrating their world anniversary. I'm going to give you the rundown from the oldest to the newest. And so 1 is Legend of Zelda, which is celebrating 40 years.
Cool.
2 is Sonic the Hedgehog, that is celebrating 35 years.
Got that one.
3 is Animal Crossing, which
No.
surprisingly is celebrating 25 years. And Gears of War is celebrating 20 years.
So I was fairly confident on Zelda and Sonic. I was fairly confident Zelda was older than Sonic, and those were definitely the 2 oldest. But I just had this sneaky feeling that. So I went for Gears of War as 3rd, but I had this sneaky feeling that Animal Crossing was older than you think it is. Because what I was trying to think was the first thing it came out on the Game Boy, whatever the Game Boy was, that was the foldy one, the
Nintendo DS.
The end of DS, was that the first thing it came out on? And I was trying to think how old those
I believe
were.
it must have done for being 25 years.
So that was the thing, was I was pretty sure I remembered people playing it on the DS and thinking that's quite an old bit of kit now. And so it was just exactly when Gears of War came out as to when.
Steve has said that he's going to
well done. That is impressive. Yeah.
Question number 2. What does a vexillologist collect?
I guessed curses just because it was a humorous answer, but I don't think it is.
Nice. I'm afraid it's flags.
Okay.
Collecting flags.
Yeah.
Is that a groan of, I would have, or should have known that, or could have known that, or just annoying that you didn't get it?
So I think as a the Big Bang Theory regular watcher, I should have known that, really. If you've seen enough fun with flags with Dr. Sheldon Cooper episodes, I think you must know that, right? I mean,
I've got to say that was the main reason why I saw it as well. I was like, oh, of course, because I remember it from that too. So the number 3 is movie connections. The answer is Super Mario Brothers from 2023, which is an animated film.
Yes,
because the Queen's Gambit stars Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Princess Peach. Minecraft movie is Jack Black, who stars as Bowser, and Jurassic World, who is Chris Pratt for Mario.
So I've guessed Chris Pratt and Anya Taylor-Joy were probably the links, but I couldn't think of a movie, so I had to go for a Jack Black movie. So I literally just put School of Rock down, just because it would be really funny if that had been the answer.
Steve has also put about, don't forget Amy Farrah Fowler.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
For the flags. Okay, so question number 4. What does Spaceman by Babylon Zoo, Tears on My Pillow by Kylie Minogue, and Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick by Ian Drury and the Blockheads have in common? They were all number 1s on this day across history.
Okay.
So in 1996 for Babylon Zoo, 1990 with Kylie Minogue, and Ian Drury and the Blockheads was 1979. And that is why I purposely mentioned the 27th of January at the very beginning of the quiz, just so
yeah.
Just to kind of include that. So final question, and I hope you're not too annoyed with me with all of these. Question number 5 is, what is not a type of artistic paint? The answer is linseed. Because that is, I was going to say, because that is actually used as a binding agent, or like as a kind of to make it change the quality of the paint, whereas everything else is. And caustic is wax based, gouache is opaque watercolor with a fixer in it, and tempera is egg based. But, so that is the end of the quiz. Please put your scores in the comments. Tom, how did you do?
I got the first 2 out of the 4 in the first one right, so I got that 50-50. I got half of that, I think, and I got the paint one, but that was it. So 1.5. 1.5.
Oh no! And Steve only got the one that he talked about.
But that was an impressive one. That was definitely an impressive one.
Very good, very good. So that is the end of
I got questions. The quiz.
the end of the quiz. So tonight we are talking about treading the boards, and at this point, I'd like to hand you over to Tom to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mentioned earlier that one of the geeky things that I'd been doing. So it might not sound geeky to start with, but so last Tuesday, I was at the Playhouse Theatre in Norwich, which is where I live. First time at the Playhouse. All the stuff that we've done since we've got here has all been at the Theatre Royal, but I was at the Playhouse, not actually for a theatre production, but I was doing a public speaking workshop. Which was run by not that my day job doesn't require me to do a lot of public speaking, but I figured if I was going to encourage other people I work with to possibly do some developmental work, I had to show willing. So I went along. It was run. It was for businesses really, but organised by Norwich Theatre, which is the charitable company that runs some of the theatres in Norwich, and the guy running it, actually doing the training, was RSC, Royal Shakespeare Company trained actor. Trained at the Royal Scottish Conservatoire, but has regularly been employed by the RSC, being part of the RSC company, does work with the RSC. Apparently, the RSC does work all over the world doing Shakespeare translation and working out how Shakespeare plays should be properly translated into languages to carry the nuance and everything. So he's been doing work in China recently. And that was really fascinating.
Just to kind of jump in already. Sorry, in mid flow. So he was trained at the Scottish. So where was that? Scottish
Royal Scottish Conservatoire. Yeah.
Royal Scottish. So the RSC.
Yeah.
But then we're also talking about RSC.
Yes, the Royal Shakespeare Company. Yeah. So he is the RSC. He was RSC trained. But I hadn't thought of that. But no, it's
so that's why I was getting a bit confused.
Yeah, I hadn't thought from that.
Carry on.
Yeah, so in the theatre world, RSC is pretty much always the Royal Shakespeare Company. But so he was running it. It was really interesting. But for me, the really kind of bit that kind of got me to go and do it, apart from I should do some further training, was it was done in the theatre. It was done in the auditorium. So we were doing our main training on the stage of the Playhouse Theatre. Wow. And when at the end, when the last thing that we did was all we had to do a little bit of public speaking, and on the stage looking out at everybody in the auditorium. And it's a long time since I have been on the stage like that. So I grew up doing stagecraft. I did drama GCSE, theatre A-level, and I did my theatre studies A-level at a sixth form college, tertiary college, that had a big drama department, and did a lot of performing arts, BTECs and things as well. I did look at going, or thought about going to drama school, never did, went off and did other exciting things. But it was just really exciting to get back on the stage and just be there in front of, mainly empty auditorium. It was a workshop of about, dozen and a half of us, not even that, kind of just over a dozen of us, plus the guy running the course in I can't remember how big the Playhouse is. It's probably a 600, 700 seater auditorium. So it was pretty empty, but it was really good fun to be back on the boards, and just reminded me of how much I enjoy being on the stage. Quite a bit of geekiness to it in terms of kind of some of the technicalities. It can be theatre stage, being on stage can be a very technical thing. He was talking about the change that he'd gone to, the way acting is different from when you do it on the stage to when you do it on screen. He'd done some screen work recently and things, and it's very different, and having to hit marks and things. So it was good fun. It was good fun, and it reminded me a huge amount about how much enjoyment I get from being on the stage and all of that kind of technical stuff. doing silly warm-up exercises and things, and such like.
And so is it working on like transferable skills and kind of confidence sort of stuff, or just like objection and public speaking, or?
So for quite a number of the folk who were there, not me, on this particular occasion, but for a good number of the people, really the key thing was confidence. It was about a number of the people there. There was a range of people there. There were several accountants. One of the local, the city's local accountancy firm had sent several people along. There was a self-employed hydrological surveyor, basically draws maps of the underneath of the sea. There was a copywriter who's exploring their options now because they're concerned that AI might be taking over kind of their historic work, and therefore they need to explore other different options. So a whole range of things, really interesting group of people. But for a number of them, it wasn't so much their ability to speak, but actually just their confidence of, look, I'm really confident, I'm really comfortable in a small group talking to my peers about our area of expertise, etc. But I've taken a step up in my career, and now I'm needing to present at great big conferences. Somebody was a consultant anaesthetist, really high powered job, but at the level they've got to now as a consultant, they were needing to present in front of other anaesthetists at these medical conferences. I'm not confident in myself, and I'm not really sure how to do that. So a lot of it was about building confidence, encouraging people to say, you can do this. But there was some technical stuff. So there was stuff about warming up your voice, warming up your kind of physically, so that you can speak more confidently. Exercises about breathing, not just because breathing helps you gain confidence, but also because breathing helps you to end sentences on the end of the sentence rather than dropping away so nobody hears the end of what your sentence. Those kinds of things. It actually, controlling your breathing is what controls actually the fact that you can make points, and then your next point, and then your next point, and those kinds of things. And then projection, making sure you can reach the very back of the theatre. It's not the largest theatre in the world, the Playhouse, certainly not as big as the Theatre Royal, but it's big enough, and things like that. So, it was really good, and that thing also. So when I was on the stage and I was doing my talk, that being reminded of the fact that when you're on stage and the lights are on you, it really is quite difficult to work out who is in front of you, because you're suddenly like blinded by the lights, and you're like, I've got to speak to these people in front of me, and I can't see half of them. That's quite especially when you're used to being in congregations in well-lit churches, and you can see everybody when you're looking at them. To suddenly be like, here's an auditorium that's where you're the one that's lit and not them. That's really kind of like,
imagine that's quite a different kind of contrast, really, isn't it? Quite literally. Just to kind of get used to.
It's no wonder that if you go to because one of the things we do go to the theatre quite a bit for is stand-up comics, and it's no wonder that they only ever talk to like if they're doing a talking to the front row, it really is only the first two rows. And it's not just because those are the ones they can hear most easily. It's probably the only people in the whole auditorium that they can even see. Everybody else is just like this mess of, if they look up, they're just going to get blinded by the spotlight. So it's I suspect that's part of it as well, but I hadn't thought about it until I kind of was back up there. And this creativity that you get, because that was one of course we were all doing effectively just for 2 to 5 minutes each, one man or one woman shows, one person shows, as a lot of space to be in and to control when you've got the whole of this stage. Normally in modern stage, the modern theatres, of course, those are black rubberized stages for sounding reasons. It's a lot of space to control. And one of the things that he picked me up on, because I think for a number of those that were there, it was all positive feedback because that's what they needed. Whereas I very deliberately said at the beginning, look, I'm here to develop. I know that I can do this. I know I'm not incompetent at this, but I'm here to learn. So, or at least people tell me I'm not incompetent at it. And people tell me I'm pretty good at it. So I've been doing it most of my life. So give me, if I need to be better at things, tell me. And one of the things he picked me up on was actually the control of the space, that I was rocking a bit too much. He was like, no, you might have all this big space, but if people are listening to you, just either stand there, own the space, control the space, and just say, this is the bit of space I'm standing in, and you're going to look at me, and nobody cares about the rest of it because you're looking at me. Or own the space by saying, hey, there's all this space and I can walk around it, and I'm going to walk around it, and I've got all this space to use. But I was kind of getting trapped where I was kind of like maybe taking a step or two and then stepping back, and it was like, no, that just makes you look nervous even if you're not. So just decide, what are you going to do with this space? Are you going to just stand in one place, talk to people, and they will focus on you and forget everything else is there? Or are you going to just say, yeah, the whole space is here and I'm going to make use of it? But don't get stuck in the middle, which was what I did. So, it was which was good. That was helpful. I could see exactly what he meant. Yeah.
And so all in all, was it a good experience then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mean, one of the things I did before I left was got his card and asked him whether he would be comfortable, because he's kind of partly self-employed. He does a lot of stuff paid by the RSC and by Norwich Theatre, but he is self-employed as well. Asking him whether he might even be up to actually coming and doing a training session for our local preachers and things. I mean, that might never come off, but it certainly was in my head that it was really good. And I thought, is this one of those things that we, as human beings, when you do something regularly, you can kind of think, oh, well, I've got fairly competent at this, so I don't really need to do any more in this area, especially if it's something you do every week, like I do. Whereas actually, it was really helpful to go along and say, you know what? No, I know I do this a lot, but there's always stuff that you can learn. If I'm committed to lifelong learning, you have to say, well, then I'm committed to lifelong learning. There's always something I can learn, whether it's being reminded of stuff like voice exercises and having a bit of space to yourself, or being affirmed in things. So the fact that actually normally before a Sunday service, I'm a church minister, in case people hadn't picked up on that, before a Sunday service, I do tend to take myself off just for 5 minutes before the service starts, kind of completely detached from conversations with stewards or congregation members or whatever, for 5 minutes to say, look, at this point, I'm on my own, I'm in the vestry, I'm not wanting to be interrupted. And being affirmed in that by somebody who's, a real specialist in this field, and saying, yeah, no, absolutely, that's what you do. You take yourself off, you can't, and then you come back to it. Or being picked up on things and saying, actually, no, this really is somewhere where you could do with a bit more work because you're not quite getting that right, which was really good. And reminded me, because when we've been here while we've now been here in Norwich for 4.5 months, I think other than stand-up comics, we have been to see the theatre more since we moved to Norwich than we did in the last 8 years when we were in our previous appointment. Which we did quite a bit when we lived in Cornwall, because we used to go over to the Theatre Royal Plymouth quite a bit to go and see stage productions and things, such like, and we didn't really do it while we were in Essex. So since we've been here, we've been a few times, and we've got tickets for a couple of other things. We've got theatre vouchers for Christmas from my parents, which we need to work out what to go and see with.
Very good.
So it was really good to but it was good to be back on the other side of the curtain, as it were, and to be on the stage rather than watching the stage. That was really good. Really enjoyed that. Won't necessarily be looking at trying to join a drama club or anything. I've got enough things in my hobby pile to be getting on with. I don't need to be trying to use up time to be treading the boards particularly. But it was good to be reminded of that love that I've had since being quite a young kid, of being on stage and kind of addressing an audience as an audience, and from that, in that kind of theatre environment, was really good. Was really good.
Good. I was going to say, because for me, I've done a little bit when I was at school, and in sixth form in particular, I kind of enjoyed that. And but I think for me, again, I'm from church background and otherwise, and I went to Bible college, and that was the first real introduction for me when we were learning about preaching and going out preaching or supporting preachers. I used to play guitar and otherwise, or still play guitar, but that's what I was mainly doing. But I was getting to know new people who were also sharing their interests and their passions, and at least a couple of those were really into Eddie Izzard. And so what was happening was that we were kind of having these kind of opportunities to preach alongside friends who were preaching, who were directly influenced by Eddie Izzard. And so there was almost these Eddie Izzarderisms of preachers, kind of a friend kind of going, just like this, or and you're like going, okay, this is a bit weird, because they've almost like cut and paste, kind of mannerisms of Eddie Izzard into their sermons. But again, even going further into ministry and with church stuff, we had a chaplain who was doing stand-up comedy, and so it's quite. I could definitely see these interchangeable skills where you're there kind of in the spotlight, or you're kind of having to not control a room, but kind of lead a room with in comedy and be the attraction. Whereas actually in church, you're there to help guide and lead in a different way, but actually using very similar skills, if not the same in some respects, but not entirely.
I think there was definitely some crossover skills in terms of public speaking, in terms of the use of voice, in terms of projection, in terms of enunciation, in terms of holding someone's interest. If you're preaching, for example, you need to be able to hold a congregation's interest. You might not be doing it for quite the same reason as a stand-up comic whose aim is to make people laugh and to follow a joke, or to pick up on the setup of a joke, the punchline of which may not come until several stages later. A lot of stand-up comics now, the big ones, they set up the punchline for the very last line of the show very early on and meander around and then hit the very last punchline. You have to remember, but that means they have to have held your interest and actually got you to remember the bit they set up at the very beginning in order for it to land at the very end. Or whether that's somebody on stage as part of a play who needs to make sure that the very important line in the play might be a whispered line between two characters, but the person at the very back has to hear it. So there's that kind of, those skills I think do transfer across a lot. And certainly as somebody who started off doing stagecraft as a teenager and then went on to do marketing and communications and schools marketing, presenting to youngsters about further education, higher education possibilities, holding a crowd while doing campus tours, those kinds of things. Those things definitely held me in good stead when I started training as a local preacher, because I already knew how to hold an audience in that sense of being able to project, be able to pause, be able to offer different thoughts consistently, all those kinds of things, and not be so overwhelmingly nervous in front of a group of people that you just lose control of your breathing and then you can't say anything. So those are definitely, but actually for me, the bit that's transferred the most from my kind of interest in stage and theatre, whether it's an actor darling or which I never really properly was in terms of adulthood, or in terms of my academic interest in styles of theatre, different, whether it's Shakespeare, which I do actually really enjoy. I know lots of people don't. I have to say that whenever anybody says to me, I can't really get into Shakespeare, the thing I always do is point them to Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which doesn't divert from the script of Romeo and Juliet at all, but presents it in a way which is actually completely modernized, completely engaging. It's got guns in it, it's got cars in it, all of that, and yet it's using Shakespeare's script.
I was about to make a comparison to the Christmas Carol with the Muppets as well, but ish.
Ish, but close enough. So whether it's Shakespeare or whether it's Harold Pinter, British playwright, very clipped text, very short sentences, very based in kind of realism and real dialogue, very dark plays, often quite short plays, but very dark plays, but nonetheless short, clipped, talking very much in the way that people actually normally talk to each other in short sentences. Or whether it's something like Anton Chekhov, which is, Russian American playwright of kind of classical kind of late 19th century, early 20th century, or whether it's Stephen Berkoff's very kind of physical theatre representations of don't forget 10 Things I Hate About You, Steve reminds us of, which is the Taming of the Shrew, reworked. But all these different things. In my ministry, one of the most helpful things that it's done for me is enable me to engage with styles of worship.
Okay.
The church has often, it seems to me, in my experience, as somebody who went on academically to study worship and liturgy as an actual academic subject, as well as being the thing that we do week to week, it's really easy for the church, for people in churches to fall into a silo and kind of get to a point where they do worship a particular way, and that's the only way or the proper way. Nobody says that Shakespeare plays that great big kind of dramatic Shakespeare with big long soliloquies is the only way of doing theatre. In my view, it's a great way of doing it, but it's not the only way of doing it. Shakespeare is a great playwright. So is Harold Pinter. They're both great playwrights, but they write plays that are hugely different. But they're both great playwrights. And actually, I sometimes compare. So, I love bells and smells, big Roman, Catholic cathedral style worship. That's the kind of, for me, that's the kind of Shakespeare of worship. But I also like going along to, run of the mill, every middle of the road church, maybe a Methodist church like the one that I'm a minister of, or a URC church or something, which is, a bit more down to earth, a bit more kind of rooted and conversational. I love that too.
I've got to say, I've now got in my head that my home church might be compared to, is it the Cornley Hill Polytechnic, which is the show goes wrong.
The show goes wrong.
There's no offence to my home church, but that it's a bit more quirky and it's a rural little kind of pokey, but I won't name it online.
But I have seen that play, that actual play live, not just the stuff they've done. I have seen it live, and it is brilliant theatre. It is, in fact, from a technical point of view,
I was going to say
extraordinary. It is extraordinary theatre.
Yeah.
But it gets you because it's extraordinary theatre, of course, because it's very professionally done. And we might be noting that the church stuff isn't, the whole point is it's not professionally done. That's why we make the comparison. But it still requires a great deal of commitment and enjoyment. And actually, it draws you in as a play because, actually, it is done. It's being done brilliantly well technically, but actually, you're drawn in part because you really don't know what's going to go wrong next. It's just brilliant.
I was going to say I've not seen the show goes wrong in person, but we have seen Peter Pan as well as the Mind Mangler, as well as the magic show that goes wrong. I can't remember which one that one is. So I've seen that one as well. So they're all kind of quite fun. But I think you're right there, right? You're about the kind of the professionalism too. I think when I talk about worship, I'm going off on a slight tangent, but I'm going to come back. I often talk about it as being a varied diet. and that we wouldn't in life just have the same meal over and over again.
Absolutely.
But actually, we would want to mix it up, and especially kind of across the church years, I would always kind of go across the church calendar sort of thing. I would try to kind of do some things a bit differently at Christmas and at Easter, and I think sometimes we aim for a high standard. Sometimes as churches, we just kind of do it with a real passion, and I kind of compare it to the kind of the homemade. The you know, kind of, it's made with heart and passion and soul, and you love it, and it's completely in a different standard. And I wouldn't put it in the same class as professional Michelin starred kind of cuisine, but I wouldn't want to, and therefore it's there for a reason, and so is the other. And so I think just in the same way that there's that variety in theatre, can also be kind of overlaid into worship. That I'm a big fan of that kind of exploring what are folks really into, and that it really winds me up when they kind of are into a myriad of things during the week, and they're into this kind of that murder mystery or this kind of musical and this bit of it, and yet they come back into church and just do the same thing that they've sung since they were little, and I know there can be comfort in that, but also it's a bit of a shame that we're not stretching ourselves, or we're not kind of saying, look what we could do here. And I know I joked at the very beginning about this, about the cabaret and things like that. Well, actually, cabaret is really quite helpful because it gives you a bit of a flavour, and it might give the people on stage a little bit of a hunger to kind of go, oh, you know, we did that one song, can we do that musical next? And so they don't know what they're missing until they give it a bit of a go. Absolutely. And so I definitely see that. Carry on, Tom.
No, I was going to say the amateur thing versus the professional thing. You know, amateur dramatics. You know, I go to the theatre. I'm happy to go to the theatre and watch amateur. You know, the people on the stage at amateur dramatics. Now, the youngsters, one or two of the youngsters might go on later in life if they're very good to be professional actors. Maybe one or two of the adults are just finding their way, but generally the people in amateur dramatics know that they're amateurs, right? They're never going to be professionals. It's not what they're doing. It's either because they don't want to be, or because they miss their chance, or because they just know they haven't got the skills to be, and it doesn't matter because what they enjoy being on a stage. But that can still be great. It's still, I remember going, we were down in the West Country. It's a point when we were down in the West of the country for some reason. We were down in Taunton. We were staying down there, and we noticed that there was a production on at the Brewhouse Theatre in Taunton, and it was the local Amateur Dramatic Society putting on a production of Gypsy. And we just went along and we watched it. It was great. They were really, really good. It was a perfectly enjoyable evening watching a well-produced play. Was it professional? No, it was not professional. We hadn't paid to professional prices, and we hadn't gone expecting a professional production. We'd gone expecting a good, high quality local amateur production, and it was high quality, being done in the Brewhouse Theatre. That's a touring theatre. It does get professional touring productions as well as stand-up comics and things coming to it, and it was really good, and therefore, you know, we shouldn't. Yeah, a bit like, yeah, they sometimes you can, in church, we can kind of expect or look for an over professionalization of worship. And that's not what we're about. You know, that doesn't mean I don't enjoy going to, you know, cathedral worship that's been been very well coordinated by the canon precentor and the director of music and the choir, and it all holds together and it all goes perfectly, and that is kind of, you know, or going to one of the big local evangelical independent churches with a professional band and, you know, paid graphic designers for their screens and all of that. It's brilliant, and I wouldn't write it off. You know, there are some who might be tempted to write that. I love it and I enjoy it, but I also enjoy being at my local church just down the road, and who are basically throwing everything together as best they can and doing the best they can and worshipping, and it's not a bad thing.
I think we're falling into this kind of want to be diplomatic and be really kind of supportive of local churches, but at the same time explore theatre and otherwise. Steve's just put, we do similar often, including a youth amdram in Jersey.
Oh, cool!
Where you stumbled across once, and they can be amazingly good. And I think this is, that actually, I think whatever the standard, actually, if you come across a bunch of people who are giving their heart to something,
Mhm.
and that they're doing it well, or or well enough, or
Yeah.
to that it can be immersive, and I think that's what is so
Mhm.
good about going to the theatre over any
Yes.
other format, is that
Yep.
you've got people there in front of you, and the way that they can command the stage and use their space and drive the narrative, you don't have to be in a room of 2,000 people.
No.
It's just you and them on the stage,
Mhm.
unless you're really in the rafters and you can see
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Been
And you
there.
need
Been
them.
there a few times.
You need binoculars to kind of actually see the. Yeah, I've been there
But
too.
it draws you in. It
It
draws you
does.
in.
It does. It does.
And then moments stand out for you. So it draws you in. I mean, it's probably actually one of the reasons why unlike some, I don't like pantomime, because for me, pantomime breaks that fourth wall that actually means that I
Oh, no,
lose
sorry.
the sense of which for me loses that sense of being lost in what's going on, because suddenly I'm being asked to be a part of it, and it's like no. You draw me in and then keep me in there. Don't pretend that I'm out. Don't recognize that I'm actually out here. But I get that some people really enjoy pantomime, and I wouldn't rob them of that just because I don't enjoy that experience. But it draws you in, and then you get amazing things, and then you get people who've done clever things with. So we went to see production of Fiddler on the Roof recently, and one of the design choices that they'd made with that was that the musicians are visible on stage. So the whole time the music's being played, you can see the musicians playing it. And the fiddler, took me a moment to work out when he first appeared. The fiddler appears very early on in the production, and he was on the roof. They created this amazing roof bit that lifted up and down, and he appeared on the roof. And took me a moment to work out he was genuinely playing. He was the fiddler in the musician group. He wasn't just pretending while somebody else did it. And that was drawing in. But the one that always sticks in my head is as a teenager, must have been a teenager because I was in Shropshire at the time. We went to see a production of Macbeth at Ludlow Castle. They do a Shakespeare festival at the castle every year.
You mentioned the play.
Oh, I did. They were doing the Scottish play. The Scottish play, quickly. What is it they have to do in Blackadder? The actors when they and they were doing the Scottish play, and the main character, after whom the play is named, at one point towards the end, kills someone, and comments that they were clearly of woman born, because the prophecy is that he can't be killed by anybody of woman born. He threw the person he'd just killed off the castle.
Okay.
Off the back, so we couldn't see. Now, clearly there was a scaffolding and a mat right behind the battlements that the actor was thrown onto. But us sat in the audience, we didn't know that. We just saw kill, thrown off. I was just like, what?
Did you hear? Was there a gasp, or was there?
Yeah, there was. Yes, there was certainly an audible kind of like, oh, before everybody went, oh yeah, no, it's fine. There'll be safety stuff. But there's still that opportunity, even with a script and a play that everybody. Well, going back to Romeo and Juliet, until Baz Luhrmann did that with Romeo and Juliet, I could, nobody else has envisaged doing that with Romeo and Juliet. That was, original production. So you've got these, which is how I often talk about liturgical books. People always say, oh, well, no, they don't always say, but people can sometimes say about worship books, about books of liturgy, oh, but it's all just written on the page and it's so staid. And I'm like, it's a script. It's just a script. What actually matters is what you do with the script. And even with the script, there's still, and even with the rubrics, the stuff in red, the stage directions, there's still a huge amount you can do with it that still gives it life and gives it appeal and draws people into it. Sure, if you just sit there and go, okay, the Lord be with you and also with you. Yeah, of course that's going to be boring, but it's a script.
Yeah, and I think there's something here, isn't there, about in one sense it's about kind of really meaning the words or using them as to kind of to jump off into kind of springboard into kind of the other thing is about kind of the use of the word liturgy, and this is what I sometimes kind of pick up on, is the fact that when we talk about liturgy, we often mean written liturgy, whereas actually a lot of churches can fall. Well, all churches, I think,
All
still
churches have
fall
liturgy.
into liturgy, as in to say, well, we always do this, and then we do that, and then the next thing, and it's their kind of lived liturgy that they always do it, that sort of style.
Yeah.
But actually shaking it up, doing it a bit differently, using the script and the stage direction is really good to kind of go, actually, let's just rethink this. Let's just turn this on its head. Let's just remove this bit or emphasize this bit. And I think it's noticeable, for example, when you have the Bible readings where someone really kind of has read it beforehand or gives over real passion in the voices and gives tone and expression, where you go, wow. And at the same time, I've got to say, it can also be amazingly well read, or as in it can be really insightful for when someone is a bit nervous and emphasizes different words than what you would normally read, or the way that it's from a fragile voice. And they kind of come away and go, "Oh, I'm really sorry." And I'm just like, "No, that was amazing," because it loses the usual lilt, and the usual kind of cambo, of it, and that for me is where it comes alive again, because it's not the usual. Yeah,
and that emphasis thing, just very quickly going back to Shakespeare, reminds me of. Did you watch when they had the whatever it was 400th anniversary? 400th, anniversary thing. The RSC did the big kind of the thing on TV, and they did a skit around the to be or not to be soliloquy.
Yes, and
Papa was doing Hamlet at the time, and so he went through, and then they had all the different actors come on and give, emphasize, just two lines, and they had a dozen actors on stage, all of whom had demonstrated a different way of emphasizing that two lines.
I think I've seen it online somewhere, because it's like James McAvoy, Benedict Cumberbatch, and even not as a spoiler, but isn't it Prince Charles or King Charles now?
It's finished. Charles finishes it off. That is a spoiler, folks. That is a spoiler. Sorry, but the skit will still work. It's just that thing of, here's two lines, two of the most famous lines in the world, and yet a dozen different interpretations of it simply by putting the emphasis in one different word. It's just that demonstration. And then the breaking up, probably a final point before we quickly do the gallery. Just coming back to Eddie Izzard, I have seen Eddie Izzard live a couple of times, including improv. And why I want to mention this is just that ability to have somebody who can take what you expect and then just flip it on its head. So I saw him doing as a part of an improv group. So there were four of them doing improv comedy, and we'd done one thing after another, and it was a case of shouting out words from the audience, and somebody and several people would do a skit around it. And we'd been through this, we were over halfway through, and so we were used to shouting out words. And we get a sketch for 2 to 5 minutes of a sketch based around that word. About over halfway through, somebody shouts out the word. We're in Bristol. Somebody shouts out the word students. At which point, Eddie has just taken a drink of water, and he just spits it out as though he's obviously had too much to drink. Turns to the audience, goes, "Next." Had the whole audience in stitches, one word, and moved on to the next thing. I was like, I'm going to just flip it, and now we're going to move on. It was just, takes that person to kind of, who's so used to being in it, that can just see that moment, go, I'm going to do something completely different they don't expect with that.
Yeah, that's very good. I'm going to say, on socials, I do watch a lot of Whose Line Is It Anyway? And their kind of improv, and it always blows my mind. And even with Mock the Week, which isn't always as, I don't know, I never know how queued up it is on the sort of programs with writers and things behind the scenes. But I like the idea of the improv and how people can just twist and turn things immediately. I'm always impressed with that.
Yeah,
but yes,
absolutely.
our time is nearly up. We're going to come to Geeky Gallery, which is a little bit one-sided this week.
So embarrassed. So embarrassed.
No, it's all right. Well, I was in two minds, but actually we started off talking a little bit about it last week anyway. But I think first of all, we talk about the non-Lego stuff.
Yeah, so
so
we've
Julia,
got a
do you want
couple
to
of
explain
different
these?
things
These
here.
are yours.
So if you're looking, if you're seeing on the screen, if you're not, but on the right, there's several photos of various different models on the tabletop, and that's from me playing last Saturday, playing a game of Warhammer 40,000 as part of a Crusade game, which Crusade is basically, it's a campaign of games. So a bit like going through a D&D campaign. It's a series of games, and the results kind of make a bit of difference to what happens next. So that was good. And then on the left, last year at some point early last year, I think it was, I backed a Kickstarter project, which is basically, I don't do RPGs, but this is basically a card-based RPG type game. So it doesn't have a DM, but it has cards that basically do the next things in the story for you. And there's enough cards that the story's always a bit different. So, and you can play it on your own, in fact, because it's card-based, you can just do it on your own and tell a story on your own if you want. So I backed that, and that turned up last week, so that was good. And then, yes. So
you've got one more slide after this, which is...
okay.
Yeah.
So this is some of the photos that I took as we went along of Notre Dame de Paris Cathedral being built in Lego. And as I mentioned last week, it's done in chronological order. So these are quite late on, well into the 1200s, but it's not quite finished yet.
I was going to say, I will just say at this point to mention the Discord that we are dragging these pictures from Geeky Gallery in our Discord, and so there is a link in the blurb wherever you're seeing this, so you should be able to download the app. It's relatively painless to download the app, and you join the Discord, and it's like our own little server to talk about various things. There's lots of headings to talk about and little kind of chats about, and there is a section where you can share things such as this. So real encouragement. So whatever geekiness, and it doesn't have to just be Lego or Warhammer or RPGs. It could be any quirkiness or interest that you might think people be interested in. Then do share it, and we'll kind of try and bring it onto the show as and when you kind of upload it. And so the final one, final one. So
up to date. So finally finished in the 1800s. The last little bits were added to the cathedral. So here it is in its full glory, even with the little trees outside on the path there. So it's an amazing. So it was an amazing model to build, really amazing model. Looks great on display, and fascinating to build it in chronological order and kind of work through it as they actually did.
I think that's a masterclass, really. I think that's really fantastic to give you that experience as you build, as well as the final thing.
So to the extent, just very quickly, because I know we're running out, we're kind of out of time. But the fact that in that, if you've got that big picture in front of you, and you can see as you're looking at it that you've got the flying buttresses towards us, and you've got the little pointy bits. Those pointy bits were not added in the original build. They weren't added until the 18th, 19th century, something like that. So when you build it, you beadled it, and you get it almost to the very end, and then you add those little bits. And it's like, because those bits didn't get added till the end, so the model doesn't have them on until the very end of the build, even though you could easily have added them in, like when you first put the flying buttresses on. It's amazing. It's just really incredible.
I've got to say, it is a stunning piece, and it's a size, isn't it? It's really sizable.
Yeah, it's over. So the top of the middle spire is 33 centimeters.
Yeah. So
it's not huge, but it's fairly sizable.
I think it's the level of detail that you've got there.
Yeah.
And it looks awesome. So really well done, Tom, on that. That's really, really good.
Wow.
Really,
well
really
done to the designers, really. It's all down to them, really. I just follow the instructions.
It was interesting, just as you said about the little pointy bits, and they're going, I wonder if anybody is buying multiple sets to have different time periods of them or whether it's just going to buy one and adapt it if and when they need to. But
Yeah, I mean,
that's just.
it would be quite cool.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think it could be. Well, thank you, Tom, for sharing a little bit this evening about treading the boards and theatre, and especially as it applies to worship and church. Obviously, we don't always delve down that route as much here on Faith and Geekery, but we're not afraid of doing that either. It's
absolutely.
As the theme, as the subject takes us, as the conversation takes us.
Absolutely.
But as always, thank you for tuning in. We've mentioned Discord already. We are in various places on social media, including we're just bridging out into TikTok a little bit, but we're going to need to get at least 1,000 followers before we go live on there, I've discovered. So I don't think we're going to go there in any speed, but I will occasionally be dropping little clips and bits and pieces there. So if you want to support us and our little adventure, then please like, subscribe, follow, and join the Discord. But for now, thank you for taking part. Thank you for listening, tuning in later, because it's obviously available on podcast as well.
Absolutely.
And thank you, and folks, keep safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.